Hi, my name is Corey Morris, and I am an educator at St. James High School in St. James Parish. I am most passionate about building a relationship with my students. I feel like building a rapport with my kids is the key to having a safe, positive classroom environment. I teach 10th, 11th, and 12th grade African American history. Today's objective, students will analyze and annotate key elements of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I've Been to the Mountaintop speech to understand the historical context and emotional appeal. So this week, we've been learning about the civil rights movement and peaceful protests. So the focus of this week's lesson is going to be about the sanitation worker strikes, which is why Dr. Martin Luther King went to Memphis, Tennessee to give the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech. So today, our focus will be on our kids breaking down the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech. We are going to group the kids into groups. The way I group my children, I have a higher level, a medium level, and then lower level kids all in one group. And it's not to separate children to make them feel as if they're not superior than the other one, but it's for them to feed into each other. So we're going to go into the groups. Each group is going to have a white sheet of paper, and they're going to analyze and annotate the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech. I'm going to have scaffold questions on the board that each student will have to write a response in every group. I will give them 3 to 4 minutes to write their response to the scaffold questions, and then as a group, they're going to answer. Each group should have different answers because it is opinion-based questions. Why do you think it was important for Dr. Martin Luther King to tell his story of his flight to Memphis? Think about, we're talking about the speech. In the speech, he talked about his flight to Memphis. And then the second question is, why do you think it was important for Dr. Martin Luther King to tell his story about the stabbing in New York? Why do you think it was important for Dr. Martin Luther King to tell his story of the flight to Memphis? What happened on the flight? Anybody remember?
It was delayed because they had to check all the bags and stuff to make sure that it was safe.
Why did they have to check his bag?
Because people wanted to kill him.
Because people was wanting to kill him. That's absolutely correct. So why do you think it was important for him to say it in his speech when he got to Memphis?
To make people aware.
To make people aware of the... Absolutely correct. He wanted to show the adversity that he overcame. So basically, whenever he talked about his stabbing, he was just letting them know that on my flight here, they had to delay the flight because they wanted to kill me. In New York, I went to a book signing. They tried to kill me then, but I'm still here. That makes sense. All right. What was the phrase that they used during when he talked about his stabbing? What does that mean?
If you would have sneezed, you would have died.
If you would have sneezed, you would have died, which is what we're going to do today. So today, y'all going to analyze and annotate the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech. Basically, what we're going to do, we read it already, we answered questions about it, but we're going to break it down to have a better understanding. Martin is, it basically, when the strike happened, it kind of opened the eyes for Martin Luther King, and he was like, okay, now I got to go down here and support these people because of what actually happened. So 1,300 African-American sanitation workers walked off their job. We talked about it, but they did have Caucasian sanitation workers as well. They was getting paid more, and they wasn't behind the truck. So they either was driving it, as a sanitation worker, they wasn't behind it. So basically, they wasn't safe. They wasn't going to get smashed by the truck regardless because they was not working in the back of the truck, which is why they was fighting for the safer working conditions and better pay. So the strike gained national attention to the civil rights issue. They walked around with the I Am a Man sign. When they did the strike, Dr. King arrives to Memphis. So March 18, 1968, he went to go support the strike. He saw the strike as a part of his campaign for African Americans, and he delivered his famous speech, I Have Been to the Mountaintop. So today we're going to break up into the groups that you were in yesterday, and we're going to answer questions regarding the speech. So y'all remember what group y'all was in? Yeah. All right, so we're going to break up. Whoever was your team lead yesterday will be your team lead today. And I'm explaining to you exactly what you're going to do. Let's not forget, this was his last speech. 3 to 4 minutes to discuss with your group to answer the question. It is opinion-based, which means more than likely there's no right or wrong answer unless you just over the wall, like off the wall, okay? All right, group leaders, You're going to write your answer. So mark it as question 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. And then after I give you your 4 minutes to write your answers down, each group is going to have the opportunity to answer the question. Okay? And then tell us why. All right? All right, so first question. What historical events influenced the message of Dr. King's speech? For example, what happened prior to? Historical means what led up to this speech. What events? Events as in not just one. What events influenced the message of his speech? What historical events influenced the message of his speech?
So, bus segregation being unconstitutional, which would be the Broader versus Gill, court case. Yeah.
All right. What was the message of his speech in your own words? What do you think the message of his speech was? Relating to what you said about the bus boycott. So you say racial discrimination, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was the message of his speech? Think about the fact based off of sanitation workers, right? Low wages, were they racially discriminated?
Yeah.
So how could you connect that to that historical event? Use exactly what you said.
No, I got it. I can do it.
Go ahead, Christian. He's like, I got it.
And okay, so you see, Rosa Parks got discriminated against.
Mhm.
They protested enough. They outlawed the segregation.
Good job.
So they protested sanitation enough. They're gonna outlaw that too. Boom, done.
Good job, Christian. Good job. Y'all give him snaps.
Which led to him coming down to Memphis, where the little situation happened.
Okay.
So then, that's when he got to saying his speech. And I Have a Dream speech was the speech that's the most famous speech that, that's
What
what
was
he
that
really
speech
known
about?
for. That all colors could come together as one.
I'm glad you said that. That's I Have a Dream speech, right?
Correct.
I've been to the mountaintop. He said he saw the promised land, right?
Correct.
How does that connect?
Because
What
in the
was
I
it?
Have a Dream speech, he wanted all colors to come together and look at us now.
Then it ties in.
Does the promised land?
This the promise.
I'm very proud of you. I give you that much. I'm very proud. All right. In what ways does the speech appeal to the emotions of the audience? Skylar.
Oh,
You can say it on your group. It don't matter.
all right. We said that Martin Luther King Jr. used the phrase, if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here. He did that to make the reader show empathy towards the situation because he wanted them to be in his shoes so they would know how it felt to be targeted, to be discriminated,
Yes.
and be in a world where there is segregation and you are being treated differently and badly. And we also said that he
He wanted to make the reader empathize with him, to make them understand his resilience and almost dying and not being able to witness these heartwarming events, along with fighting for the black community.
I love that. Y'all hit it on every point. Knock it out the park. What is the significance of the phrase, if I had sneezed?
Have lost if he had sneezed. When he was stabbed, he could have died if he had sneezed.
Right.
The Montgomery bus boycott would have never happened, and all the other historical events that he participated in would not have been as effective or could not have happened. When the message from when he read the message from the 9th grader, it encouraged him to keep trying to protest because it showed him that his work did make a difference in the world and in that little girl's life.
Good job, Jasmine. And so everything y'all said was absolutely correct. The significance of the phrase "if I had sneezed" had everything to do with him not being able to see or even grow into the person that he was. Because every day we're growing into something new. Everybody, you have a choice every day. His choice was, even after he got stabbed, I'm going to continue. That was his choice. He wouldn't have been able to see those sit-ins that we talked about a few weeks ago. Those boycotts, any type of civil rights movement that he was actually a part of. If he would have died in that moment, he would have never saw any of this. Most importantly, he would have not been able to give his final speech, which was a really good speech that actually did touch people of any color. What he said in his speech was, I received a letter from a Caucasian girl that said, I'm so happy that you did not sneeze. That is what we're about to scaffold into next, okay? Whenever he was stabbed, it took for him to get stabbed near death experience in order for him to get the letter from her. So he would have never got that letter, which probably opened his eyes to way much more, to know that I'm not just doing this for African Americans, but there are some people out here that do want to come together that makes sense, that want it to stop. They want the segregation to stop. So that is actually what's going to move into our next question. Do you think he would still remember the letter if it was written by an African American student? Do you think he would have still remembered the letter? Remember, in his speech, he said, I received a letter from the president and the vice president, but I do not remember what it said. However, I remember a letter from a white girl, a white student. Do you think Dr. King would still remember the letter if it was written by an African American student?
So we all agree that it definitely would have been remembered, but it may not have been as cherished as the girl who did it, mainly because the girl was white, and Dr. King realized that it's not only the black people that was being affected by this horrible time in history, but it was also the white people.
Zyron, do you think Dr. King would still remember the letter if it was written by an African American student?
No, not really.
Why not?
Because he knew he had an impact on African Americans, but he never knew that he had an impact on an opposing race. So I think he would have not remembered if it was an African American student.
Good job, Zyron. Good job.
I believe he would have been greatly appreciative that the young minds of the African American race was paying attention to the things happening within their community. He also would have been pleased to know that his people wanted him alive. Overall, he remembered the little white girl's letter because she was of a different race, a race that mostly hated African Americans and others.
Okay.
I would like to add on to what I said by contradicting what Sanaya said, but also agreeing what she said, because I think he also remembered her letter because she was young, but she was of the white race. Basically saying that if this young teenage girl could understand that we can be together, then adults should be able to understand that we can be together.
I'm glad you said that. I really like it. Back to your desk. Alright, everybody's gonna get back to your desk and we're gonna do an exit ticket. I'm gonna give everyone a sticky note and you're gonna answer this question on the sticky note. Once you finish with your sticky note, you're going to go and post it on the board. Alright, y'all ready? Alright. The exit ticket is, after analyzing and entertaining Dr. King's I've Been to the Mountaintop speech, what was the overall message of that speech? Okay? All you have to do is answer that question. What was the overall message of the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech? Y'all can go put your exit ticket up. Make sure your name is on your exit ticket. I will read your exit ticket. After today's lesson, I do feel like my students' objectives were met. My students did annotate and analyze the speech, enhancing their critical thinking skills, dug deeper into the questions that were given throughout the lesson. So something I would have personally did differently with this group was making sure that I assigned each student a question to answer, just so that I know that the students are engaging verbally out loud in front of the entire class. Some of my kids do have a problem with speaking out, and I try to allow them to have that as a comfort where they can just talk with their peers but don't want to speak out. So something that I think I would have done differently was to see them engaging with other students outside of their group by verbally speaking out loud. So after we analyze the speech, tomorrow we are going to work on the actual assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So the speech was actually the last speech that he gave the day before he was assassinated. So tomorrow my students are going to work as crime scene investigators, where they are going to analyze and annotate interviews and witness statements from the actual assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And then they're going to answer questions to try to figure out who killed Dr. Martin Luther King and what was the motives.